Hey, what's going on? 3 Drinks Down Back. I'm Nate, as you guys know already. If you don't, welcome to the channel. I hope you guys have found this and you find it to be entertaining and fun. But let's jump right in today to the podcast. Wanted to circle back first on the poll that we put out a couple weeks ago that was about what is the one thing you look for in going to a whiskey bar. And kind of not surprisingly, the number one thing for a lot of people, not by a wide margin though, was price. And this kind of makes sense because I think people are looking for values nowadays, probably all the time to be honest with you, but in particular with the current economy, things, inflation, moving up, things of that nature. What was surprising in a certain respect was that tied for number 2. So coming in at number 2 was the selection of whiskey overall and the availability of store picks or private barrel picks, if you will. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. In some sense, this is the same idea, just getting a differentiation of a choice there. At the same time, this is 2 very different ideas, right? Because having a cool list of allocated products and other things is amazing, but being able to actually see what that store owner's profile, or excuse me, that liquor store owner's profile is like, or bar owner's profile is like. I say liquor store because we're able to drink in our liquor stores here, like get pours and whatnot here in Florida typically. I know that's happening in other areas of the country. Some of you cannot. So sorry for you if you cannot. It's the best. But so looking at it and thinking about it from that perspective, I guess I shouldn't be that surprised that this is the case. It was just below price in all honesty. And then there was a write-in vote or 2 for the atmosphere itself. Also in there was events and things like that, but those kind of trailed behind. And so it got me really thinking. I didn't disclose what I thought was something I looked for in a whiskey bar to you guys whenever I push this poll topic out. So I'll let you in a little bit. For me, it really comes back a lot to that selection and or that potential to have store picks or, private barrel picks. I tend to agree with that group because I'm looking when I go out to have something I don't have on my bar back here and to have a chance to try something new. Or if it's a special occasion, I want to get after an LE product, something that's, I'm not going to get to, or an aged single barrel product that I just don't have back here, or that I'm not going to go seek out all the time because I'm not going to drop that kind of money to buy a bottle like that. So it wasn't too surprising. Of course, price being at the top. I'm sensitive to that too. Don't get me wrong. I think it's important, but it depends on the situation. So not always a price thing, always in my mind, of course. So thought that was a cool poll and got me going. I said, let's just keep this going, keep the momentum moving forward. Let's actually put out another poll for you guys. And in a couple of weeks, we'll come back and revisit this. We'll keep the cycle probably like a 2-week cycle. That would give people a chance to reply, maybe get in there and kind of chop it up a little bit with each other. Maybe say, you're wrong, but hey, we're cool, whatever. Yeah, don't be a jerk, basically. So let me give you a little bit about this poll that I'm going to put up because it actually came out of an interesting topic from another creator that I know, from Whiskey Straight Up Derek. You guys have seen me on his show. He's been here. And he had posted on his personal page a while back that he said he was thinking about doing Dry July. And it got me thinking, would I be interested in trying Dry July? I still don't even really know. And what would go with that? And, what is it that would make me want to do that? And that's kind of where this poll thought process is going. Now, before I throw this out there for you guys and throw out a couple of thoughts that I might be putting out there for some of the poll options, let me first say, I completely understand. Think if you're here, no one's trying to be insensitive to the fact that if you need to take time away from drinking, please do. Please don't wait for a sober October or Dry July, right? We're not here to make light of that type of thing. But it is an honest question as to what might make you feel like is a good reason to do it. So I'm going to put probably a couple of reasons out there and the other at the bottom. And the other would be just drop a comment below on what that is. So I'm going to probably start with just because. Some people are just those people where it's like, I'm going to do it just because I can. Awesome. Good for you. I'm not here to question anyone's motive whatsoever. The next one is going to be what I touched on a minute ago. It's going to be personal reasons. You don't have to disclose it. Please don't feel like you have to place it in the comments. So you check personal reasons. We're going to move on with life. Could be any number of reasons for you. And the last one is because maybe you were challenged to do so by someone else. And there's a little friendly or, hopefully friendly wager. Could have money or something involved or a tattoo or something dumb if it's a group of people. Who knows? Kind of like fantasy football. But point being, maybe you were just challenged to, and that's the case. And again, I'll put other at the bottom of this poll. So if there's another reason why you're choosing to do something like a Dry July this July, or if you just happen to do it every sober October, or you make up something that's like, I'm not going to drink because it's whatever outside. I don't know. For whatever reason. If you have anything like that, please vote in the poll. Please interact below in the comments in that poll and tell us a little more about it if you feel free to. I'd love to hear from all of you. So time for one of my favorite segments that has started to grow on the channel. It's called On Second Thought. And what I'm gonna do here is actually pull out a bottle that I've done a review on or has done head to head with something else and take a second look at it. Usually gonna be something that we were, either James and I or myself, if I did it solo, were not too keen on, but it could be something we felt was great and just wanna come back and see if we still feel the same way. In this case today, y'all might remember Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit. So the Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit that I have happens to not be a private barrel pick. It is just a single barrel that the distillery actually barreled and sent out through distribution. So it was an allocated product technically, but it just wasn't picked by any store owner or anything like that. And when we go back through and we look at their notes from about 8 months ago when James and I reviewed this one, neither of us were blown away. We were doing purchase, pour, or pass back then, if you recall, which I still think is a fun concept. Might still work in new reviews. Both of us said on this one we would be a pour. In other words, if we saw it at a bar, we'd probably get a pour of it based off this experience, but not too wild to spend too much money to own a bottle. The MSRP on this is $55, so you're not coming out of pocket a huge amount of money. There really isn't much of a secondary on these. Some of the store picks have a little secondary, but with it being a plain single barrel, really not much. We didn't get a lot of great notes in terms of like just nosing and stuff off this. We said maybe a little creme brulee, a little smoky, a little floral, a little unsweet tea on the nose. And then getting into the flavor, we said unsweet tea. James still got something berry-y going on, a little fruity, not big sweetness berry, but a little something from that. And honestly, we just said this is pretty unremarkable. It doesn't really differentiate itself from what is its little cousin, little brother, little sister, Wild Turkey 101. So we really just weren't blown away by it. We weren't just completely like, either. But, you know, for turkey products, you expect a little more, especially if you think it's going to be more one of their premium products. So let's get into this one and see what we think on the second go round. This bottle's been up about 8 months since we did the review, essentially. And I think I've went back to it once since then, just on a quick trial pour, just to see how it goes. So I'm definitely coming around on more of the sweet notes this time. I don't get as much creme brulee. I actually do get that berry experience. If you guys recall from the previous video, I wasn't quite with James. You can kind of tell. I didn't shoot him down because I thought it was kind of there, but it wasn't just prominent for me. But on first blush here, I do definitely get more of a berry experiences. That's good English, right? I get more of a berry experience. It's almost a weird kind of Crafting. I'm gonna leave that in. There's almost a weird Captain Crunch berry kind of deal going on. Not fully, but we can get a little more whiff. All in all, I think it's slightly a better experience than the first time that I recall. And it's been so long ago, it's hard to recall this stuff. I don't have a photographic memory. So I'm going off what I do remember, and I will rewatch the video quickly a couple times. So let's get into the taste. Yeah, this one is a little more enjoyable than I recall. Honestly, there's that sweetness that you're expecting with some of the more modern turkey products. When I say modern turkeys, because your older turkey products aren't quite as sweet. This one's actually a little more sweet than I would even expect for that. Almost a bit of honey in there as well, I'm detecting, which is really nice. It's really beautiful, and I did not get that last time. This just isn't plain unsweet tea anymore. It actually is coming around to be like a honey berry, nice kind of oaky. You can taste the age on the oak a little bit. So who knows? Maybe just the bottle time and the air time really did this one really well. Let me get a second sip, and we'll kind of wrap up our thoughts. Man, that berry and honey presence, like a honey tea. Whereas it was unsweet tea previously, it feels like it's like a berry honey tea. Really coming together. And the oak has a nice just finish in the back of your throat. Just a little hug at 101. You don't expect a ton of it. It is still a touch thin, which is one of the notes we said before. But at 101, around 7 to 8, 9 years believed, based off what you read. Not the worst thinnest thing in the world. Very enjoyable. So what do I think second time around on this one? I think I'd changed it to a purchase on this one. Actually, after coming back around to it and really kind of investigating it, it has some of the vibes off the Wild Turkey 12. Please don't take me as saying this is Wild Turkey 12, just go buy this instead. The Wild Turkey 12 is definitely a little more special, but it starts to lean that direction this go around of having it than it did not before. So that's kind of what I'm digging about it. It really has kind of that more sweeter, rounder perspective. First time around, it just, with fresh crack on the bottle, it just did not do it justice. So this one apparently is just one that I needed to let air more in the glass, probably. on that first taste, then maybe I had this experience and we would not have went there. So always nice to come back to something and find out that it's a little more enjoyable than you thought it was in the past. Let's not say we hated it. It's just always nice to know that. So in this case, Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit single barrel, we're going to go ahead and say purchase or thumbs up. Time for another new segment. We're calling this one Whiskey and then we'll fill in the blank on that, whatever that and is. In this case, today, we're talking about flavors, flavoring, flavored maybe is a better word actually. And this one actually kind of shocked me. I was doing some prep work and talking with wife Sarah about what could I do for a poll topic? What could we do to include some things? It kind of probably got brought up because in all seriousness, we were out yesterday and we were at a bar, our local bar, the Grayson, and we happened to do some fireball shots. Yeah, I know, I get it, right? Dude, like, okay, you don't like flavored whiskey. You do like flavored whiskey. You like it, but you don't want to tell anyone. I don't know, whatever your shtick is, but it got us thinking, should we do something fun with that? Should we maybe put a poll question up, which we decided on the poll. I told you that earlier in the episode. But it got me thinking, so where did all this start in our country? Like, what happened? Fireball was not the first. Like, you know, it's one of the more popular ones now, along with like your Screwball peanut butter whiskey and things like that. But even thinking that, like in our country, what was the first? Because you can date back some examples of other whiskey spirits like Drambuie with honey, you know, from Scotland way back, early 1900s. You can go back and find Tullamore Mist in 1940s and Canadian Yukon Jack all the way back to the 1940s. And, you know, the list goes back on and on. But in terms of the American flavored whiskey presence, where did that come from? What the heck happened? Got to do some digging around and found out something a little mind-blowing, to be honest with you. Some of you may already know this. Some of you may not. So we have to go back to 1976, which is not that long ago. It is 40 plus, almost 50 years ago. I get it. Probably longer than most of you guys thought we'd be going back in this conversation. But the surprising part is actually who is credited with essentially making this market in the United States and having the first successful brand. There were others around at the time, but the very first flavored whiskey that caught on and is still in production today was brought to you by none other than Jimmy Russell at Wild Turkey with American honey. Okay, so here's the thing. So you could probably argue me a little bit. Technically, it's classified as a liqueur, but it is a bourbon product they flavor with honey. And so it does start as a whiskey or an American whiskey, since you can't call it bourbon because they're going to flavor it. But you get the point. You could go back and find the first flavored whiskey, which we can argue about whether it's a liqueur flavored whiskey, all the way back in 1980. In fact, if you go watch, there's a video out there from the Nunn Institute, which is University of Kentucky's recorded history library or something, NUNN. And it has Jimmy Russell talking about it. And he said simply like, I was just asked at that time to make a product that would be more attractive to female clients, female drinkers. He said the ladies, of course, but you know, it's 2023 now. So, but quoting him, he said more attractive to the ladies to drink. And it got him thinking, what was something that was more approachable, more acceptable? He thought about like what families would do back in his era when he was growing up in the 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s. And that was if a baby was crying because they're cutting their teeth, they'd rub some whiskey on it. And, you know, obviously there was herbal things. If you had a cold, you'd have whiskey, honey with lime or lemon juice. You know, first hot toddy almost type deal. So that was where his mind went with all this. And lo and behold, in 1980, American honey was then made a staple of the Wild Turkey. And it's around today. And I just found that fascinating because I never would have thought in a million years that Wild Turkey would have been the forefront of what happened today with everything. And of course, Fireball's owned by Sazerac, which owns Buffalo Trace and all that. You might have thought that it had come out of somewhere that was defunct or that had gotten bought up by Seagram's, because, you know, Seagram's bought up half the world, it seems like, in the 1980s in the whiskey world, because the United States was just falling behind. Whiskey was viewed as an old person's drink. And that was a whole nother reason they challenged Jimmy Russell to say, we need to find something we can market to all adults and in particular females. So I hope maybe that left you with something interesting you didn't know. And honestly, hopefully it doesn't taint how you feel about Wild Turkey. It doesn't for me. It's still my favorite distillery today. I get it. They make a product. They have to make things that people enjoy and want to drink, or they go out of business. So during the late 70s, early 80s, that was important. Point being, if you enjoyed this episode, please smash that like button. Please watch one of the videos linked above. And until next time, cheers.